Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents or Clash of the Counselling session for Correspondents. Let me firstly introduce you to our Bournemouth correspondent, Neil Grover. How are you, Neil?
Yeah, crawling out from under my rock. It's been a tough weekend, but yeah, hope you enjoyed yesterday.
I did enjoy yesterday. Thanks for pointing out. Yeah, we're pre-recording this on Monday, so we won't have the information at time recording from the press conferences from the two guys. And our Wolves correspondent, Bradley Parker, is in. How are you, Bradley?
Yeah, grace apart from football.
Okay, it's going to be fun, this, isn't it? Right, I'll do my best to cheer you both up. Neil, we just get on with it. There's no point beating around the bush. How does it feel to get beaten 9-0?
Not gonna lie, it's not great, but at least it was to, probably one of the better teams the Premier League has ever seen, form excluded. It wasn't Leicester or someone like that.
Is that a dig at Southampton's Twitter account by chance?
Yeah, I mean, at least ours was away at Anfield, right?
It also lost 9-0 at Manchester United behind closed doors, if that makes them feel any better.
Yeah, we've only done it once.
How are you feeling about it now? It's obviously time recording is nearly 48 hours gone since. Does it stick with you, or do you just can you look at it and go, it's Liverpool away, didn't expect to get anything anyway, and just let it go?
Yeah, and I think it's the latter. Okay, there's never an excuse for losing 9-0, but I think as you know, when you look at the jump that's happening now between teams coming up versus the big two, arguably now, it's just so big, and I think that showed it. Liverpool had a point to prove. Obviously, as soon as they lost to United, I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, Klopp said that as well, didn't he? He
We
even said for you it was a bad time to play him.
Yeah, and it was the worst time anyway. We talked when last time I was on, the fixtures were just astronomically bad for us at the start. We've had injuries, we've had it was the perfect storm of nightmare for us, to be honest.
Is there any relief?
Well, it's done. Don't have to play them again unless we draw
No,
them in the cup.
I mean that it wasn't 10.
Oh yeah, I mean that would have been because, like you said, we copped some banter on Twitter and all of that. But if it'd been 10, then there's the record in the modern era and all of that, and you don't want that. At least now it's just tied.
I mean, I was out. I've told this story on the podcast bit yesterday, but I heard it was 8-0, and then I heard it was 9-0 with like 5 minutes to go, and I thought it was a certainty they would get to 10. You think?
I was sat watching the Celtic game yesterday as well, and I was like, come on, get the 10th, so we're not the worst result this weekend.
And just so you know, the Mo Salah didn't score in Celtic's victory over Dundee United on Sunday either. Can you take any positives out of that, Neil? Like beyond we don't have to go to Anfield again. Is there any positive from the weekend that you've taken out of it in any way?
Yes, but only from an FPL point of view. I don't have Salah. That's it, really. I mean, look, what positives can you find from a 9-0, really?
No, I hear you. I'll give you one though. Bradley, you got less points than them.
Yeah.
Explain. Well, I thought you had a good start on paper.
Individual mistakes, not being able to shoot.
Is that what the crux of the problem is here? Not scoring goals?
Yeah, so like it's been a problem for how many months now? Because still not signing the centre forward that they needed at the start of the season. Jimenez is he's completely shot now.
Is it fair to say you've played well in all 4 games? Is that a fair assessment?
In bits and like against you, the first 45, I thought it was outstanding. Like, but it comes in drips and drabs. But they'll never, when they're on top, they'll never make it count. They'll never take like the team 2-0 down, and then it's always like if they score, it'll be 1-0, and then all of a sudden the switch will change. Like yesterday.
So is that down to the manager then? A little bit in terms of not going for the throat and finishing teams off?
Maybe a little bit. I think some of his substitutions can be a bit strange. Like when a team's coming against you and pushing up the pitch and you've got Adama Traore on the bench, you bring Adama Traore on. that space is going to be utilised fantastically. Then all you have to do is get the ball to Neves, and I'm sure he'll chip it into the corner for a Dama. 9 times out of 10, he'll get it. He'll get you up the pitch. He'll win fouls, take the sting out of the game, maybe cause a goal just by virtue of.
So what's the reason not to? What's the reason not to utilize that weapon at the moment? Then
I think it might be his contract situation, but we know he's stuck here now, so he's going to have to use him.
Is he stuck?
Yeah, no one's going to buy him on there. There's no talk about him at all.
I know someone that might. I think Tottenham might make a move before Thursday. It's possible.
Only one bench to the other though for him then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably one bench to the other with slightly higher wages. Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, with the odd I might get Champions League football. Does that cheer you up, Neil? There's 3 teams in this league worse than you at the moment.
Well, that's the positive I'm taking, right? And we said this last time I was on. Okay, though, playing City and Liverpool away with Arsenal at home, especially the Arsenal at the moment that are just outstandingly red hot. But we beat Villa, and until yesterday or until Saturday kickoff, we were above Liverpool. So you know those 3 games are not what keeps us up. It's Villa, and it's going to be Wolves at home. Those are the games we need to play and win.
You'd have taken this, wouldn't you? I mean, save for the scoreline at the weekend, you'd have taken this start. Even if you'd lost 3 or 4-0 at the weekend, 3 points from 4 is okay, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd have bitten your hand off for 3 points from our opening 4.
Now, though, you come into fixtures where I was going to say there's expectation, or is that expectation just on the floor at the moment?
In a funny way, I think there is no expectation now because what has happened in the sort of media outside of the club, I think we've just been written off. Just everyone's now gone with the worst club that's probably, and I've heard people say, oh, they're going to do a derby and all of that sort of stuff. We're not that bad. I mean, we've just played 3 of the better clubs, in Premier League history.
Great.
And one of which was, had a point to prove, and scored several goals that would be goal of the month candidates, any other month, right? So it is what it is. But yeah, it's a huge game, especially for Parker on Wednesday.
Go on, elaborate on that a little bit if you can.
I think there will be, if we lose against Wolves, there will be a huge amount of pressure from the fan base on Parker and the board to do something. I think a little bit unfairly. Again, I mean, what do you expect from him out of the first 5 games? If you said you're going to get 4 points from that, I think most reasonable fans would say, yes, that's great. But it's the manner of some of the losses. We just haven't even looked vaguely in the game against in the last 3. There'll be better teams than us that are in that position, and I do think there's compounding factors. But I do think that there'll be pressure, right? There just will be. That's football management.
But surely Wednesday night's not going to affect that. Transfer window closes Thursday night. There's no time to waste now, surely.
Yeah. Exactly. I think we will definitely be active as well in that period. We have to be. But yeah, I just think I don't think the board will do anything yet. Particularly with Parker being the successor elect that they wanted. But I think the fan base will really start to go into overdrive with sort of, all the Parker out hashtags and all of that stuff, which I think is a bit unfair at the moment.
Well, from outsider looking in, it feels like he got you promoted. The fixture list is absolutely brutal. They've given him next to no money to spend so far. When you look at like the money, say, Forest have spent in comparison, what is the club's expectation based on the tools that they've given him?
Yeah, it's exactly that, and I do think there will be a bit more money spent between now and the window closing. I do think there was a feeling before the season started that, much like I said, that the starting 11 was around about where it needed to be. It is just that depth, which we've added to. I don't think Senesi has really got going yet, but again, the 3 games he's played in are probably the 3 hardest games he'll play all year. So I'm not too worried about that. But but yeah, I think it's harsh, some of the criticism, but he hasn't helped himself by coming out and saying after the game yesterday, I think there'll be more hidings and that we're gonna, our squad isn't where it needs to be to stay up yet. But
It clearly said the one interview I've seen, I've only seen one. It was the interview he did with the BBC where he said these players need help.
Yeah,
he's begging for someone to intervene and offering players, right?
Yeah, and I do honestly believe the board is trying, but we're now in that position where if you're a player, let's say we're recruiting from the Belgium league or somewhere like that, if you look out and you just see a team that's lost 9-0 at Liverpool, is that an attractive prospect to you? Perhaps not. You might be thinking, well, I'll have 1 year in the Premier League and I might show what I'm going to do. But you'd have to be very self-confident in your ability to come in and make a huge impact. So some of those bit part squad players that we might need, that might be tricky to recruit.
Bradley, how do you view this for Bournemouth? Are you, because I think Neil's right to highlight everybody outside of Bournemouth will think probably that they're going to finish bottom at the moment. Do you see them in that severe of a trouble 4 games in?
I definitely see him as a weak team. Like when I see the first 11, just from what I just look at, I don't look at it like a Premier League side. They look like just a high-end Championship side to me. But I'm not an expert at watching Bournemouth. You just want to see on paper.
Fine. Is that fair, Neil?
I think there's a bit of a hangover from some of the players from the last time we were up. Solanke being a big one, who's been a big miss so far. But it's hard to disagree from what we've seen so far. I hope there would be a bit more step up, but again, the fixtures.
And yet, Bradley, you're below them.
Yeah, as standard.
Is pressure on Bruno Lage as well?
From Twitter, which is a small, noisy pool, there is some people who are losing a bit of patience, but I'm not quite there yet because I want to see that the new striker. I want to see how much of a difference that's going to make.
So you've been heavily linked with Sasa Kalidzic, is it?
Yeah.
From Stuttgart?
I think that'll probably get over the line. They're just dragging the heels over like tiny bits of money. But the player wants to come, so it'll probably happen.
Would he come in as first choice over Jimenez, do you think?
He's got to come in as first choice. Got no option not to be first choice.
What happens if you lose at Bournemouth and don't beat Southampton?
Be big. Yeah, it'll be massive pressure then because then it's Liverpool and Man City back to back, I think.
West Ham away and Chelsea away.
Yeah.
You're on a run of, what is it, 13 or 14 without a win, I think, I want to say.
Yeah, last time we won was in April.
So if you don't win these next 2 and then you've got them next 4, I mean, by the time we get to game week 11, when you host Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth might be like 6, 7, 8 points clear of you, mate.
Yeah.
Could they panic if you have a really bad week here?
They'd get rid of him. Yeah, they won't.
Would you go that far? Like if you don't win any of these 2 games,
I can see them doing it.
Doesn't seem to make sense from the outside. You've obviously been quite quiet in the window, bar obviously signing Nathan Collins, who's a player we like. You've obviously added Guedes and Nunes for sizable fees. Surely that needs some bedding in process, no?
They do.
Or are they not his signings? Are they George Mendes' signings anyway?
I think he's worked with Guedes at Benfica, so he already knows his profile. Nunes is a top tier player in Portugal, so that's just a no-brainer if he was available and was coming. Collins is an interesting one. That's obviously somebody else in the scouting department, but he's a good signing. I've been impressed with what I saw so far. But I think we just need to get that striker in and see what happens because Jimenez just doesn't do enough anymore.
And the backups, presumably, even obviously Jimenez didn't start at Tottenham. I don't think he started against Fulham either, did he?
No.
The backups, I take it, the likes of Hwang and stuff, just Podence, not up to it, no? Or
not up front. I mean, Hwang's just fell off a cliff completely.
Why?
I mean, I don't know. Like he had that injury, and then he just never recovered. His confidence is gone. Like I've seen you can throw the ball at a brick wall and you probably control it better than Wang. I mean, his clearance yesterday cost us the match. Kicked it into the middle of the. And there's no pressure by him either. So
some finish though. In fairness, from
it
Alex
was some
Maximin,
finish.
you could say he was working back and doing his bit for the team, but possibly made things worse. Yeah, I don't argue that. The problem is, I look at your 11, Bradley, and I think it looks fine now actually with Guedes and Nunes in there. Like as soon as as soon as I saw the team you picked against us in game week 3, I thought, oh, that's stronger than I felt about Wolves for a while. The problem is, if you pick up injuries, it's weak, isn't it?
Yeah. It's been the same since we've been in the Premier League, really, though.
And so far this season, bar obviously the bit with Jimenez, and Semedo's obviously been a bit slow coming back from his return, obviously started on Sunday. The team's been fit. 2 points from Leeds, Fulham, Tottenham, Newcastle. He's not what you'd have wanted, is it?
No, just heaping pressure.
Are you in a relegation fight, do you think?
Well, at the minute we am, from the start. Got no choice but to say we am. I'm a bit more patient than some other fans are. I think if that Kovacic comes and he does the job, they'll be fine. Because I'll just take the chances more. And he'll link a lot better with players like Guedes, I think. I think Guedes will be quite good around him. Because he played with a target man at Valencia last season. And he bounced off him quite well.
What can you tell us about Gonçalo Guedes for perhaps the guys who haven't seen him yet?
Solid, mate. I like the runs he makes. He always adjusts his position. Like against you, I liked how he was direct as well. Strong. Sort of like a Jota was. He can take a few whacks carrying the ball.
So it's a wide player his position, because I was on the understanding when you bought him that arguably he was this forward. He's obviously not on what we've seen in the first 2 games.
He can play centre forward, but he naturally is a wide player. But with Jimenez at the minute, I'll just play Guedes at centre forward.
Is he creative, Guedes?
I wouldn't say he's probably. His assists. If I remember right, on FB, whatever it's called.
FBref.
Yeah. His expected assists for Valencia was quite good. But I wouldn't say he's creative like he's in a creative footballer. That's probably just from his power to run and just, create it across the goal.
It's direct. That's what struck me in game week 3. Yeah, it's quite direct. I understand what you mean about the Jota comparison. And what have you made of Nunes so far?
Quality.
That brought a smile to your face for the first time in this podcast, Bradley.
Yeah, big quality.
He should have a goal or 2 already, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he should have scored that header yesterday.
And it was very unlucky with a header at White Hart Lane in game week 3 as well. FPL option, do you think? 5 million?
For 5 million, yeah. You know he's going to play.
If you were buying him or Neto today, for these 2 games, buying one new, so I'm going to have one of these 2 for Bournemouth and Southampton. Which one did you buy?
Probably Nunes because he's actually had the chances to score. I can't really remember Neto.
Which is the great run he made in the first half against Newcastle. We lifted it onto the top of the net, wasn't it? He ended up playing very defensive against Ivan Perisic in game week 3. That's
he's
interesting.
Getting subbed as well.
Is that, do you think, part of the return to fitness process for him?
Probably. Maybe he just runs out of steam now quicker after his injury.
Yeah, could be. What would you say to Neto owners?
You might as well just hold him for these 2 games at this point, if you've still got him.
So you still got confidence you'll do well this week?
I don't know. Because
have you got him?
I know that stroke Neto. Yeah. Because I know that Kovacic won't play Wednesday he's not even signed yet, so it's going to be Raul up front again.
So I'll take it your plan with Neto at the moment is to hold for these 2 and then sell, is it?
Yeah, probably.
Neil, any Wolves players? Have you got Neto?
I did have Neto, but I've moved him for Aronson.
Okay, is that part value orientated as well a little bit? Because you've let
I
it go. Obviously,
yeah, I
the
did
the
it.
value Bradley.
Yeah, I'll let it go. I'm just gonna hold him. Yeah, I'll let it go. I'm just gonna hold him for now.
You're sucked in by fan emotion here, aren't
Yeah, waiting for him to come explode.
you?
It's there somewhere. It'll...
It is creativity on large the problem here. No, sorry, not on Bruno Large, at large, I mean. As much as the actual finishing of chances. Or is it down to put a goal scorer on there, get you 15, 20 goals, problem solved?
I think it's the goal scorer thing. Like
Had-
against Fulham, they missed two massive chances. Neto had an open goal, decided to have a donkey touch instead of toe poking it. Morgan Gibbs White missed an open goal. Like you can't let. I mean, Bruno can't really legislate for that bit.
He probably thought that'd
Raul
be
doesn't
handy if
look
he was
like.
going to Forest if he missed it, probably.
I mean, I don't. You watch Raul play now, and I can't really say he looks like scoring goals.
No, but then he was on the end of the one against Newcastle from Neto, which was obviously given back as a foul. He was there. He caught up with play. He was on the end of it at the end. I don't feel
Not
like with
enough.
him, I don't feel he's missing chance after chance, or I
No, he's
just
not
feel like he's
missing
not even
chance after
having them.
chance.
Is
No,
how
but
it
then
feels.
his positioning's not good enough either. Like he just seems really off pace all the time. That's on the ball as well. I find him slow now in
Neil,
all
how
decision making.
how do you view Wolves? Do you look at them as a? I hope they stay down here. I mean, obviously, I hope anybody does. But do you look at them and think they could be sucked in?
Yeah, I think you know, with respect you've got to at the moment until they bring in, like you said, that striker, which at the moment you don't have. You're in trouble. You know, had you looked at the fixtures at the start of the season, you would expect to be in a better position than you are now. And yeah,
Is this run for you, Neil? Is it a good run? I mean, obviously, in theory, looking up to the World Cup now, you've got to play Tottenham at home in game week 14.
Mhm.
Is your only big six, if you will, opponent between now. I think I've got that right. Between now and the World Cup, you've got to go to West Ham. You've got to go to Newcastle. You've got Brighton at home in a couple of weeks. But largely, this is a good set of fixtures for a long period, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is the kind of benefit to taking our lumps up front. I think. You
One
know,
hell of a lump, mate.
well, yeah, all right. But by doing that, it's allowed us to now hopefully build some momentum and just really get on. And you know, I kind of almost view it as tomorrow, Wednesday is the start of the season for us. Okay, Villa was, you know, was a nice bonus almost in a way, but I kind of saw the last three games almost as just friendlies for us. You know, if we won them or got anything, it would have been fantastic, but it didn't make the season. So now is where Parker has to get to work and the squad has to get to work.
How big is Wednesday particularly? No, I don't mean from a transfer window because I just think that can't have a bearing on what happens between now and Thursday night. You need to do stuff anyway. But just how big is it as a football match to the football club and the fan base in the immediate?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I think it's almost like the Liverpool just had. Like we've just taken an embarrassing result. We have to bounce back. And you know, if we go and we win on Wednesday, then I think that the attitude changes slightly. Okay, it doesn't excuse what's just happened, but at least we can go, well, all right, well, we got 6 points out of 5. That should be enough. If you keep that going, that would be not in the realms of madness that would keep you up. But um, if we lose, I can see things getting quite bad, especially from the fans' perception of Parker. And that's we've always thrived as a club on having particularly with like the size of the stadium and stuff, you really need the fans really behind the club, and if that happens, it makes Dean Court so much harder to play at, and it just makes things a lot better. Whereas if we lose, I think the atmosphere will really start to turn, and that's a problem.
What system do you think Parker will play?
I think it will be the 4-3-3 that he brought on. He did play it against Liverpool, but I'm going to somewhat write that off. But he brought it on. He changed to it in the second half against Arsenal, where we then started to vaguely look like a Premier League team. Until they then sort of sucker punched us. But until that sort of sucker punch happened, I thought we were actually kind of almost brought ourselves back into the game. Whereas the sort of five at the back that we were talking about, I don't think has really, it worked against Villa, but I think Villa were quite toothless that game. So it was more almost, I don't want to say luck than anything else, because we still had to put the ball in the net. But yeah, I think he'll go with the 4-3-3. I think that suits what we've got available as well, because I think we've also been a little bit unlucky with injuries to key players at the wrong time in the first few games.
Okay. We had a big chat in pre-season deal about Parker potentially wanting, you called it spot on, about potentially wanting to play with a back three. We kind of determined then he didn't have the centre backs to do it. So he decided the way around it was to play Jefferson Lerma at the back. It felt from the outside like a little bit suicidal, having played this for a few weeks. I understand chasing the game against Arsenal, obviously changing the system. But then to start with the 4 at Liverpool, when I'm presuming a lot of the prep would have been done with the back 3 for previous games, seemed like too far a move away based on, I don't think you should judge how you go to Liverpool based on your second half performance at 2-0 down against Arsenal. That's how it feels to me anyway.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit enforced as well. So Lloyd Kelly had a minor injury, whatever that is, that I think happened quite late, because I wasn't aware of it up until, when I saw the team sheet, I was like, oh, hang on. So I think that kind of enforced it, because do you want Lerma playing at centre back at Anfield? Probably not.
No, but he did at the Etihad.
He did at the Etihad, but
and Erling Haaland had 8 touches.
Yeah, but
that's admittedly all he needs. That's 4 FPL points apparently.
Yeah, exactly. But again, that was pre-Sinisi, who I think has been brought in to take Lerma out of the defence, because you want him higher up the pitch doing his shithousery. You want that up the pitch. You don't want that as the last man, because that's how he gets sent off. He doesn't need help getting cards.
Just thinking about Jefferson Lerma against Richarlison in game week 14 is one to
if he starts doing that juggling, I can see Lerma just absolutely cutting him in half.
Yeah, it'd be a good one, that one. Okay, that's fair enough. Does Lerma, therefore, does he need to play in midfield?
I think our midfield is better with him in there.
Yeah, that's understandable.
I just don't. I'm just nervous. Yes, he's a defensive midfielder anyway, so you can kind of. He's a good defensive midfielder. They should be able to do a role at centre back if he's got support. But I'd rather he was in that sort of middle of the park, allowing players like Lewis Cook to have a little bit more time, or to to get him back the ball so that he can then do his create for us, and allow the runs and all of that good stuff to happen that we did really well in the Championship.
Does Parker know his best team?
I think he knows 9 of them, but I think it's this whole middle of the park that I think is and through the core as well. So I'm talking the centre back and the centre midfields. I think there's so many options at the moment there. Like we've seen, like Billing hasn't really played every minute that I thought he would. Christie's come and gone. Cook has more or less been there all the time, but there's a lot of options down there, and I'm not sure he knows what the best combination is.
And Ben Pearson, we think that's a serious injury at Anfield at the weekend.
I haven't heard anything.
Was the word that I'd heard,
but
it was
if that is,
serious.
then that's a problem. He adds a little bit more old school to our game. Like, he's a proper sort of no nonsense midfielder, which did allow Lerma to drop back. So without him, then you definitely need Lerma in the midfield.
Understood. New signings. So difficult to judge on centre side so far.
Mm-hmm.
What's the thoughts though? Do you think he's going to be a difference maker for you?
Yes, I was very excited when he signed. And I continue to be. I'm not going to judge a centre back on his performances at those 3 games, particularly when he's just come into the side. He hasn't learned the system. Dutch football versus the Premier League. While there are similarities, it's not. It's a very different league. You need to come in and learn the intensity. I think he will be good. Certainly, everything I've seen, and he was one of, like, Feyenoord released sort of a 60-minute movie on his career with them when he signed. They obviously rated him, so he there is a player in there. We just need to see it.
Marcus Tavernier.
I think he's gone a bit underrated. I think in that Villa game especially, he looked really, really good. He did have a chance against Arsenal and perhaps was a little bit greedy. He could have squared it, went ahead, shot and missed. But I think he's out of the 2, he's the sort of better signing so far. And a reasonable FPL option as well, I think, if someone does want some Bournemouth players.
He's on all the set pieces, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do you expect Neto to take over in goal?
No. I think they will continue with Travers. Looking at the goals that we have scored, okay, a couple of them have been rebounds, but they've been rebounds where he's had to make a really good save, and then it's just happened. The second Firmino goal, he just happened to palm it into. There wasn't that much more he could have done, without just letting the first one go in.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can really fault him too much. I don't think we saw Neto in the cup against Norwich, and he didn't look quite ready yet.
Okay.
And bear in mind, Neto historically has been a second goalie. Like, that's been his role for his career.
Right. Okay. Coming big wages, though. Am I right in saying that? Or
I can't imagine it's huge wages, but it's sort of a 1-year.
come from
deal.
Barcelona, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he was on that list.
Must be on
that was going
monumental
round.
wages, mate.
I don't know. I can't see
No, I'm
us
joking.
paying a second keeper the 90,000 a week that he was on.
No, you said Begovic was on massive wages, didn't you?
He was, but we paid for him, and it was sort of he was a long-term target and all of that. My gut was we took advantage of the situation that Barcelona were in, which is actually quite nice to see. Bournemouth taking advantage of Barcelona to kind of perhaps. I think there must have been some sort of financial deal or something there. Something's happened there, because there's no way we could have afforded what he was on.
Okay. Bradley, talk to me about the fullbacks if you can. There's a few have obviously gone for Aït-Nouri. Where are we at with the fullbacks in terms of, do we have a first choice, or is this going to be a rotation?
Semedo plus somebody else.
Okay, why is that?
Because Semedo's yesterday, he was excellent. When I watched that back, I watched the match. Excellent. He's come back really well from his injury. Johnny's looked sluggish since the start. Aït-Nouri's made a few mistakes. He was good in the cup, so I was surprised he was benched yesterday. So to me, it should be always Semedo and Aït-Nouri, but obviously the manager seems to flip-flop between the pair.
What would you say to Aït-Nouri owners? I know you're saying Neto kind of hold at the moment. Is Aït-Nouri, is that different?
I'd probably, for this game, I'll just probably hold him this week, because I think Johnny's looked a bit sloppy, but then Nouri's been sloppy as well. So
how old's Johnny now? Must be getting on age-wise a bit, no?
I think he's around 28, 29.
No, he's not. He's not in his 30s.
No.
God, I feel like he's been playing football forever, mate. Johnny Otto age. Don't worry, Google's going to help us out here, mate. Johnny Otto age. He is. Fuck, mate. He's 28. I thought he was in his 30s, you know. Why is he? I thought that's why, because I thought the same. I thought he was a little bit off the pace at Tottenham.
Yeah,
and I wondered if age was catching up. It's clearly not at 28, shouldn't be.
It was horrific against Fulham as well. He was getting rinsed, and that's rare for him. Ever since he's been at Wolves, it's very rare I've seen Johnny get rinsed.
I mean, he's obviously had terribly bad luck with injuries. Won't have helped and stuff. Like Johnny though, he's a good player. But you think Eight Nori and Semedo would be your first choice personally?
Yeah, 100%.
And how do you feel now with this? I assume this is now permanent change to back four.
Yeah, I like it. It's just it's just a striker issue, I think. The forwards you've got like Guedes, Podence, Neto are all fine like wide forward players. You got Nunes now who will add a lot to the attack and midfield by being the player that will actually link everything together nicely. It's just finding that right balance with the striker. So it's stupid that they let Fabio go before anybody else come in anyway.
Is it stupid though? And I know he's been doing well at Anderlecht, Fabio Silva, but
it's stupid when
much...
you've only got one striker at the club.
Well, I hear ya, but would it have made a difference?
Probably. I just believe in Fabio Silva a lot more than maybe other
no,
people.
I know you like him and stuff, and he's what is he still only like 20 or 21, right? You spent an absurd amount of money but it's not his fault that you spent that money on him. But it certainly felt to me like get him going playing somewhere and rediscover why the club bought him in the first place. Because it's always felt to me when he plays, it feels so isolated and stuff. There's never any question on his work rate or anything like that.
No,
and hasn't looked like a player who's going to score goals, to be honest.
I'd like to see him in this team playing with the back four.
Okay.
I just wanted to see it a bit more because his movement's fantastic off the ball.
Are you enjoying it more? Does it feel like you've got an extra attacker on the pitch? This primarily it feels like why the changes come about was to make you better offensively, and yet
I can see it in fits
2 goals from 4 suggests it's not yet.
I can see it in fits and goals. Like the midfield area now, I think like the players in that three are fantastic. Like there's not many better midfields in the league, I don't think, than what Wolves have. With Neves, Moutinho and Nunes.
No, I mean, certainly in terms of on the ball technical, yeah. I mean, Neves, I said on the pod last week, I thought he was absolutely fantastic at our place. We couldn't get near him. Obviously scored a great goal again against Newcastle at the weekend. Is he overlooked for FPL completely, Bradley, for you?
No, I don't think so.
5.5, which is double the points of Neto at the moment, as worth saying.
His price is too high. Like if Jimenez, if they sign that striker, Jimenez is out the team, Neves will be the penalty taker.
Wow, that feels like a scandal that I shouldn't put into the intro. Be worth noting though. I think there's so many good options that kind of just going above 6 is part of the problem. Graded feels a little expensive at 6 as well at the moment. Nunes is the one to watch, isn't it? At 5.
Yeah, 5 million. That's fine. He'll play.
Neil, can we look
sub too much?
Can we look at anyone other than Tavernier as a enabler, or are you sticking faith with Dominic Solanke down to 5.8? Obviously came on at half time at the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Should he be under consideration with his fixture change now?
I've kept him, but again, I've still got him. But mostly, there's 2 reasons. One, I had other fires to put out, and 2, the fan bias. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. He's my guy, and I backed him at the start of the season. I do think I just did a bit of maths there. Our average fixture rating from now until the World Cup is 2.3. So if you're going to have a Bournemouth attacking option, now's probably the time. That's 12 games with it, So I think Solanke's still going to be that main point. I know that there is a tendency to perhaps look at Kiefer more, but I think when Solanke comes in, that might change. But it's worth keeping an eye on. But if Moore stays in the team, with Tavernier whipping crosses in and free kicks in, there's no reason to say at 5.5, I believe he is. That's not a bad option.
I take it the average workings you did there maths wise was using FPL's FDR rater.
Yeah.
Which has Leicester as a 4 away difficulty and Tottenham away as a 4 away difficulty. It's also got Brighton at home as a 2. It's probably not right with their away form.
Yeah, okay. It is what it is. We all know that system, but yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of good fixtures in there. Is my point.
No. That is absolutely not in question. Certainly the next two, Wolves at home and Nottingham Forest away, attractive. I think Brighton at home and Newcastle away are both difficult games, I think, for most teams, in fairness. Then Brentford at home, they always concede goals away from home. Leicester at home is good. Fulham away, it's fine. Southampton at home, yes. So, I mean, when you put that over a block of 8, yeah, it's great. It's probably the best run of 8 in the league, as we said, between now and the World Cup. You only have Tottenham at home in game week 14 from the Super League or Greedy 6, however you want to describe them. That is a super run of fixtures. I just don't know how I could begin to consider Travers over Raya or Sanchez at the moment, for example, Neil, or do you feel differently?
No, I think just from what we've seen the past few days, I wouldn't be considering Bournemouth defensive options. But that's,
like understatement of the century. It would be a right hero thing to do, though, wouldn't it? Literally buy a Bournemouth player after a 9-0 defeat and bank that 1-0 clean sheet would be great. You'd remember that one forever.
You'll see the massive Twitter threads on, isn't it? But realistically speaking, the value now is the cheap attacking options. Just looking again, I think our most owned player is 1.1% at Kelly, or 1.3% of with more. So it's not hard to see. And let's say we do have a good game against Wolves. Solanke comes on and scores one, and Tavernier gets an assist. Though the price rises in particular, it won't take many people to jump on them for it to really start to go up. So there could be, if someone's having a little sniff around value picks and maximizing their squad value, I think there's a lot that could be done there, assuming that we pick ourselves up off the mat.
Yeah, the flip of that is obviously Tavernier, if you take, for example, I think he's the one who's really worth watching.
Yeah.
At 5 million. He's in 10,000 teams. He's really not going to take many transfers out for him to keep going down as well. For those who do have him sitting in that, he's definitely not the worst 5.0 midfielder you could have in this game. Nowhere near it. I would struggle personally to make a case over Nunes in the short term, I think, over the next two. But then I wouldn't want Nunes sitting there, Bradley, for that 7 to 10 period, thinking I've got to start him every week at the moment. And therefore, you'd arguably make a case to consider someone like Tavernier instead of him. It would still be a big deal to try and buy someone like that at the moment, though, wouldn't it, Neil?
Yeah, I agree. But I think if, we're coming up to that period of time now where that first people may be considering, if that haven't already done it, that first wild card, with the international break and all of that sort of stuff. So, there's, if you're sat there and you want an enabling player that's going to play, why not, right? Especially a differential one that could go off and is a bit different from this ridiculous template that we've seen where that's just so good at the moment. But if you're not in that top few, you need to look at these differentials now, right?
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with that. I take it you think Solanke will start in midweek, Neil, having had 45 minutes at Anfield.
Yeah, I think he's got to be close. Hence I've kept him, and I think he will be. I think he's got to start, frankly.
Yeah, no, I agree. Have you got any other Bournemouth?
No, not yet. But I have got one eye on Tavernier for when I wildcard shortly.
Just interesting before we finish up, you kind of mentioned it about the template there, Neil. Does it bother you, this template? And I know Bournemouth players perhaps wouldn't be on our minds because of the results anyway, that the fact that it almost makes it difficult to even have the conversation to say, oh yeah, have a look at these Bournemouth players, the fixtures are great and stuff. Is it frustrating you as a fan that the template looks so strong in terms of you can have this comfortable core from the big five, for example? How do you feel about that?
Yes, and it's difficult for perhaps a player that my rankings are not one of these ones that you see bragging on FPL. So I'm on FPL Twitter. So it's sort of a bit like, well, it's really difficult not to crack at the moment. I also think, and again, from an emotional fan point of view on Twitter, it's quite difficult because you just see everyone going, well, let's target Bournemouth, chaps. Everyone go after Bournemouth. And that's quite difficult as well. And I do think we're not a totally. I think 1.3% is a bit harsh on us as total ownership, but I totally get it at this point. at time of recording, but I think that'll change. I hope it changes.
Should you be targeted?
I think it's harsh again. I mean, for all the factors above with Liverpool, City, and Arsenal, there isn't another team until we play Spurs that are going to tear us apart like that, really, or shouldn't do. If they do, then that's a very different discussion we've got to have about Parker. But I think we've been perhaps a bit unfairly targeted, just because of those results.
Do you think the owners could change Parker? Like if you have bad performances against, say, Wolves, Forest, for example, where to take the pressure off themselves and the fact that perhaps let's say they don't spend the money in the next couple of days, is that a get out for them?
Could they? Yes. Do I expect them to? No. I do think Parker really was seen as this, the replacement to Eddie, and they identified him so long ago, before he left. I think it would be an embarrassment almost for them at this point to move on from him so quickly. I do think there's still a lot of football to be played. I think any manager could make a reasonable argument to their board to kind of almost ignore the last 3 games if you're a team in our position. But the next few are going to be huge for Parker. If I don't think Forest would be the one where I would be wanting to pull the trigger, but if you then go into the games the week after and we've still only got 3 points come the international break, then I would be a bit worried for Parker.
The points right now is not a problem. We spoke about this, that if you could get the 3 points for now, actually it's fine. It's the manner of what's just happened.
Yes.
If you'd lost the last 3 games 2-0, we're having different conversations now, I think is the point. Bradley, how do you feel about the FPL situation as a Wolves fan in terms of making it just difficult to justify having assets from clubs like yours?
It's just an awkward buy. Like, it's just awkward. Unless like your team's pretty set and you're just looking for different ways to like get a slight budget change, maybe like with Nunez's. Other than that, at the moment, you can't really look. I mean, even if you want to defend, you can only pick 3 because that'll be Semedo, Collins, or Kilman. And I think Semedo's 5 million, isn't it?
Semedo is 5 million, so
it's too expensive because it just doesn't do. He's never historically done anything.
You couldn't make a case for that.
No,
you could make a case for Johnny at 4.4 if you knew he was going to play regularly, similar with Aït-Nouri. No, I think defensively you'd have to go for Kilman or Collins at the moment. It'd do your brain in otherwise, and you're not doing it with the fixtures that are coming up after the next 2. The only way I could see anyone, in all honesty, looking to buy into Wolves now was someone who knew they were wildcarding in Gameweek 7. In which case you say, okay, fine, I'll take Bournemouth, Southampton, and have a go. And actually, you could put Bournemouth in the category as well if you were looking just for the 2 games with Wolves and Nottingham Forest. Otherwise, it's difficult to make a case to buy into your 2 clubs new. I think Nunez is certainly worth watching, Bradley, but that 7 to 10 run has got to be avoided as far as I'd be concerned at the moment. Okay, let's do correct score predictions before we finish. Go on, Neil.
2-1 to us.
Good lad. Bradley.
Unconvincing 1-0 win for just like scrag it over the line. Unconvincingly.
I in a weird way, this might sound ridiculous to Neil. I almost feel like this might be a bigger game for Wolves. Because of that run 7 to 10. I'm gonna go 1-1, Bradley, I think.
I'm surprised, man.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, if Bournemouth hadn't had such a bad couple of days, I'd maybe tip them to win. But yeah, I think you benefited, Bradley, by obviously the fact that the team's fit and stuff at the moment. I think
the midfield 3 should just hopefully dominate the game big time.
Well, in theory, should do.
I hope they do.
I'm very interested to see if Parker does stick with a 4-0, because I think arguably you should go back to what had worked against Villa, which it sounds to me like that's what the manager ideally wants to do himself anyway, from everything you told us in the summer. Mm-hmm. So I think he probably should go back to that, even if the personnel might not be right for it at the moment. Yeah, I'm going to go 1-1. There you go. You can both take something into your weekends.
3
Neil,
points on the board.
Southampton to beat you at the weekend as well, Bradley. I'm only joking. I don't need the Wolves slack guys coming for me. Neil, where can everyone follow you on the Bird app, mate?
At AFCBNG.
Good man. Thanks so much, mate. I know it's difficult to come on after the weekend, mate. And Bradley, where can everyone follow you, mate?
At Parker_Bradley.
Good man. It's difficult for you to come on at any time as well. Only joking. Brilliant. Thanks so much, guys. Deadline stream today on YouTube is 5 p.m. UK time. We've still got Sky Fantasy with Luke Williams coming for you tomorrow. Thursday clash of the correspondents, Manchester United versus Arsenal with, who knows, a rejuvenated Gary Robinson, perhaps. And Adam Pritchard is top of the table, which would be so typical for Arsenal to fuck it up against Villa. Villa, they probably won't. Anyway, that's on Thursday. Just leaves me to say thanks again to Neil and to Bradley for the benefit of those on the audio. Cue music, please, man child.